Joshua, you're 100% correct. Molly Lyons, thanks very much.
Greg agrees with you, Josh. All right, let's bring in our panel and talk about this a little bit. Bob Massey is a Fox News legal analyst. Tom Ruskin is a former New York City police detective and investigator. Tom, let me start with you. Greg's going to chime in on this as well. Let me start with you. When we look back at this, it raises a lot of questions. This guy who they are arresting, ostensibly, was already in prison for 2 different assaults in the same Rock Creek Park area at the same time. Did these investigators take their eye off the ball here?
No, I think that they were watching him all along. I think the kudos have to go out to the Washington Police Department because they had to tie credible evidence. As a police officer, a lot of times, or as an investigator, you're not worried about someone who's in jail because you know where he is and you know he's not committing any further crimes. You have to tie the specific crime of murder, in this case Chandra Levy's murder, to him.
So
and be able to prove
they were working on him all along, and there was some new DNA evidence that they were, and there's also a jailhouse confession, but I think that happened a long time ago as well,
The jailhouse confession helped them to tie the whole case together, but I think that they had some DNA. I don't know if it was enough to charge him. Obviously, it wasn't enough to charge him.
Let me bring Bob Massey in here. Bob, if I look at this, and I'm Gary Condit, and I think everybody agrees that a lot of his conduct was not as it should have been, and that he would have done himself a lot of good had he come clean about it in the first place. But what you have here is an intense focus that was put on this man, his life, his career basically ruined because of all of this. And, perhaps that was a bit distracting to the police who were on this case. Maybe they were looking in the wrong place.
Well, you would hope that it wouldn't have been, but obviously the more he would have cooperated, Martha, the more it may have helped. And we don't know to what extent he did. He obviously went into that self-defense mode based on the circumstances at the time. People did overreact. But again, I agree with your guess, and that is these police officers had to do the investigation appropriately. But I will tell you, from the period of time that it's taken, as the question you asked, why did it take so long? And many times that also goes to the benefit of the defense, because they will have the opportunity to challenge all of this new evidence, the snitch, assuming there is a snitch, go into credibility, authenticity, all the chain of custody issues, and that could go to the advantage of the defense.
Yeah, and Greg, as we talked about earlier, there'll be a whole new trial. They're going to bring this guy, I guess, from California to Washington, D.C. to be tried in this case.
Right. I believe they have some DNA evidence that incriminates him, newly discovered, by the way, and the scientific testing of DNA has advanced tremendously in the last 8 years. That helped them, too. They have a second snitch, a second, more reliable jailhouse inmate, this one in California.
Who
so
says
that
he told me
too.
in jail. He told me that he killed Chandra Levy, right?
Now remember, his DNA may not have been on file with them. And at the point in time where they have a snitch coming forward, they now have a possible suspect. They now go back over the cold case DNA, and they test it to his DNA because they have a right to it. He's in prison, so they can get his DNA. And that may be the final straw that broke the camel's back.
Do you think that the police were not looking at Gary Condit, for a long time in this, and maybe the media was focused on Gary Condit, but that the police, and should the police have done something to exonerate him if they felt that they had ruled him out?
Except I don't think the police ever ruled him out.
Okay.
And, at the point in time, Condit was telling different stories. He covered up his affair, which is normal in a case. Yeah, but he should have come forward with that.
Here's his first interview with police, and I'll quote, Detective Ralph Durant asked the question, "Did you have an intimate relationship with Ms. Levy?" And Congressman Condit responds as followed. And wouldn't you be suspicious if somebody said this? "I don't think we need to go there, and you can infer what you want with that." Later, he's asked the same thing, and his attorney tells him not to answer. If Gary Condit hadn't been so evasive and cagey and smug and refusing to talk and engaging in bizarre, goofy behavior, going out in the middle of night and trying to hide some evidence.
Hiding in a watch that got thrown into a dumpster.
The fact that she left her house without any of her property,
but Greg,
which makes it seem like, it's someone you know.
Go ahead, Bob.
Greg, there is nothing this guy could have said at the time, even from the spirit of cooperation, that would have lent any credibility to this guy. This guy was caught in a crossfire. I'm not defending anything the man did, but he was caught in the crossfire, and no matter what way he went,
but Bob,
he was going to be suspicious no matter what.
Bob, I mean, he was an innocent man, apparently. If this arrest turns out to be accurate, he was an innocent man. So why not come forward at the time, and I'm sure he's wondering this now as well, and say, look, I betrayed my wife. I betrayed my family. I had an affair with this young woman. I did not kill her. I will open everything in my life to you so that you know the truth, that I had nothing to do with this murder. Why not go that route?
Well, because he may have wanted to go that route, but when he lawyered up, his lawyer said, keep your mouth shut, don't say anything, it's their burden, and that's it.
Never listen to the lawyer.
Never listen to the lawyer.
Come on, hey, Greg, remember one thing, Greg, reasonable fee, reasonable doubt. Reasonable fee, reasonable doubt.
I got you.
Last thought on that, Tom?
I think that he would have been better off telling the cops the whole story. I think that obviously his attorney gave him bad advice and should have given him better advice. Listen, we're going to come forward. Bob Massey is a defense attorney. I can understand why he's going to take the other.
Bob, if you behave suspiciously, you're going to invariably be a suspect.
Correct.
I'm just wondering, I mean, maybe his lawyer wasn't so sure, you know? So maybe the lawyer said, look, don't say anything. You know, I mean, if the lawyer was 100% confident in his client, then the lawyer would have given him the advice that I just gave, right?
Exactly. Exactly. You know, you bring the evidence in, and then you have your lawyer make the decision as to what discussion there should be. But you just don't open the guy up and expose yourself. Particularly, I mean, let's remember what it was like, Martha. Everybody, the media was at his home. This guy
could make a move. When your lawyer tells you don't answer the question with police, and you're only talking about an affair, for goodness sakes, you know, you might want to get a better lawyer.
And you know you didn't do it. I mean, the bottom line is Condon, no, he didn't
convey that at the time. I mean, he never successfully conveyed that at the time. I think he did later in subsequent interviews, but he never conveyed that well at the time. All right, Bob Massey, thank you very much, and Tom, thank you very much as well.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
I do want to share with you an interview, everybody, that Geraldo Rivera did in the Haley Cummings case. This is the 5-year-old girl who has now been missing for 2 weeks.